Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are looking at something truly monumental today. I'm talking about a book that fundamentally changed how we understand human storytelling, culture, and honestly, even our own psychology. We're diving into Joseph Campbell's absolute masterpiece, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. We're going to explore the truly epic scope of this legendary text and unpack exactly why the greatest stories ever told, from ancient myths to modern blockbusters, are all, when you get right down to it, the exact same story.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. We'll cover the central thesis. 2. We'll do a complete walkthrough of the hero's journey. 3. We'll look at the contemporary hero. And 4. I'll give you my final verdict.
All right, kicking things off with part 1, the central thesis.
I gotta be honest with you guys, this book can be incredibly dense, but wow, is it ever brilliant. Campbell basically synthesized all of world mythology to ask this staggering question. How is it that stories from the ancient Mesopotamian Epic of Gilgamesh to the life of the Buddha, all the way to the texts of the Gospels, are at their structural core the exact same narrative?
Well, he answered that question with this brilliant concept called the monomyth. This is the one shape-shifting yet marvelously constant story that is shared across literally all cultures and eras. Campbell realized that whether you're listening to a bizarre Eskimo fairy tale or reading the most sacred religious texts, beneath all the different varieties of costume, it's always the same story. Humanity has been telling this exact same narrative over and over again for millennia.
I absolutely love the epic, almost cinematic tone Campbell uses to describe this whole phenomenon. He writes, "Myth is the secret opening through which the inexhaustible energies of the cosmos pour into human cultural manifestation." Isn't that incredible? He's basically arguing that every religion, philosophy, art form, and great human discovery boils up from this one basic magic ring of myth.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how Campbell connects the cosmic to the deeply personal by bringing in the work of psychoanalysts like Freud and Jung. He contrasts myth, which is the macrocosmic, big world-level story, with dream, which is microcosmic and highly individual to you. Campbell argues that dreams are essentially personalized myths, and myths are depersonalized dreams. So the monsters and heroes of ancient lore, they're the exact same psychological forces you encounter when you close your eyes and go to sleep at night.
Which brings us to part 2. The hero's journey walkthrough.
So Campbell actually mapped out 17 distinct stages of this journey. We aren't going to get bogged down in all 17 at once, but we can organize them beautifully into 3 major acts. First is the departure, where the hero separates from the normal world. Second is the initiation, where they penetrate to a source of power. And third is the return, where they bring that life-enhancing power all the way back to society. Let's start with Act 1, the departure. This kicks off in the ordinary world with the call to adventure, the inciting incident. But crucially, this is almost always followed by the refusal of the call. I think this stage is so relatable. It's that moment of pure fear, where you cling to the familiar because you're terrified of change, or maybe just burdened by everyday obligations. But once you finally accept the call, get some supernatural aid from a mentor, and cross that first threshold, you inevitably reach the belly of the whale. Campbell vividly uses the Native American myth of Hiawatha being swallowed by the king of fishes to symbolize this. It's the death of the old self. You literally have to go inward to be born again.
Next, we descend into Act 2, the initiation. This right here is the absolute heart of the journey. The hero faces a brutal road of trials, encounters ultimate love with the goddess, faces the distraction of the material world with the temptress, and reconciles with ultimate authority in the atonement with the Father. But the real standout moment here is the apotheosis, a moment of profound divine realization. Campbell brilliantly illustrates this with Gautama's Buddha sitting under the bo tree. Despite the absolutely terrifying temptations of the god of love and death, Kama, Mara, the Buddha achieves ultimate enlightenment, paving the way to finally claim the ultimate boon.
And finally, we hit Act 3, the return. Because winning the prize? That's not enough. The hero actually has to come back. And sometimes they really don't want to, or they have to literally flee in a magic flight. Sometimes, kind of like the ancient Sumerian goddess Inanna who was trapped in the underworld, they require a rescue from without, literally being pulled back to reality by others. The goal, ultimately, is to become the master of 2 worlds. The hero must reintegrate, perfectly balancing the profound spiritual wisdom they've gained with the mundane physical realities of everyday life, achieving the freedom to live in a state of total peace.
Moving right along to part 3, the contemporary hero. So, the crucial point we need to ask is, what does the hero's journey actually look like today?
Sure, we know it applies to the latest heroes of the silver screen, right? Star Wars, The Matrix, you name it. But it applies just as much to you facing a massive career change, an intimidating period of personal growth, or finding the guts to stand up for a deep belief. You are crossing thresholds and facing trials in your very own ordinary life.
Now, to be fair, we do have to look neutrally at some of the modern critiques of this work. Does this classic structure reinforce somewhat outdated ideas of gender, like the whole woman as temptress trope, and does it overly glorify individualism? Or, on the flip side, does it offer a timeless blueprint for finding meaning in our deeply fragmented secular world? Because as Campbell notes, we live in an era where, to quote Nietzsche, dead are all the gods. The traditional symbols have totally collapsed, leaving modern individuals to figure out the path for themselves.
Ultimately, the core empowering message is just this. Every person is the hero of their own story. Campbell's work strongly implies that because our society lacks a unified myth to guide us anymore, you must actively heed your own personal calls to adventure. It's not society that's going to save the hero. The hero has to save themselves, facing their own personal monsters to find their own meaning.
And that brings us to part 4, the final verdict.
So who should actually read this book? For sure, writers, filmmakers, and spiritual seekers. But honestly, anyone trying to make sense of their own life's narrative should pick this up. Now, I will acknowledge again that Campbell's writing can be pretty academically challenging. It's dense. You really have to take your time with it. But its central insight is profoundly comforting. Realizing that the anxieties, the trials, and the victories of your own life follow the exact same pattern as the oldest stories known to humanity, that is an incredibly empowering realization.
And this brilliantly illustrates our final takeaway today, beautifully captured in this quote from the ancient Vedas. Truth is one, the sages speak of it by many names. Beneath 1,000 different faces, the hero is you. We all share a common mythological language, a deeply shared human experience. So the only question left for you is, what will you do when your next call to adventure finally arrives?